Ladies and gentlemen, I have gathered you here today to say that Sonic Boom is not as bad as people say it is. No, don't get me wrong, the game is awful. It's a poorly designed, awkward to control, broken and annoying mess that tries to do too much without refining any of its gameplay. It's another shitty Sonic game that can't quite grasp how to handle speed and platforming in a 3D space. However, it's not the worst Sonic game. I've played some of the worst when it comes to Sonic games. Also note that I'm talking about Sonic Boom now, in 2016, not launch day Sonic Boom. I know that when the game came out, it had some great, features like but for better or worse, those along with several other bugs have been taken out of the game with the 1.1.0 patch. The game can now be played more or less how the developers intended it. And while I don't think it's as shitty as people say, it's definitely, shitty. Some backstory first. The Sonic Boom brand was created first with the TV show in mind. Sega wanted to make a new Sonic show with a Western audience focus, seeing as their previous show, Sonic X, while shown in the West, was extremely geared toward an anime style and a Japanese audience. For this reason, Sonic Team outsourced development of their main Sonic Boom video game to Big Red Button, a US-based game developer. They wanted the Wii U game to share the same Western sensibilities as the show, and they picked Big Red Button due to its CEO Bob Raffy's prior work as art director at Naughty Dog for the Crash Bandicoot and Jak and Daxter series. Which in hindsight, makes a lot of sense. I guess there's nothing inherently wrong about a Western-focused Sonic game. What's the worst that can happen? So the story of this game serves as a prequel to the events of the show, making it, I guess, the first piece of Sonic Boom chronology. But don't worry about having to deal with any kind of half-assed origin stories, because all you need to know is that Eggman's a bad guy with nefarious plans, and the only feisty felines fast enough to stop him are Team Sonic. That's Sonic, the boring leader, Tails, the boring sidekick, Amy, the girl, and Knuckles, the idiot.
Sonic and I will go get the crystal. Knuckles and Tails, you stay back in case the village is attacked again.
Who put you in charge? I say Tails and I will stay back and protect the village, and you and Sonic take the elevator.
You win this round, Knuckles.
The game starts off with a dramatic scene from the end where Sonic is surrounded by robots. It looks like his luck has just run out. But that literally tells us nothing and doesn't matter to the story. So the story really starts off with Sonic and his merry pack of burn victims chasing Eggman down the road. They get pinned and try to fend off his robots, but are forced to retreat into some ancient tomb.
Just as I thought.
The group then stumbles upon an ancient snake monster frozen as a statue, and they accidentally wake him up, causing him to act out 1,000 years of pent-up frustration. They then go to their friendly neighborhood exposition man, who tells them that the snake's name is Lyric. And no, there's nothing musical about him, he has a name for no good reason. And that he was the last member of an ancient civilization
Called the Ancients.
He then tells them that Lyric is looking for some power crystals scattered throughout the world so he can create a robot army. Not Chaos Emeralds. Power crystals. But why not use something established in Sonic instead of making it some arbitrary item to collect? I don't know, but that's gonna be a recurring thing, don't you worry. So the gang goes searching for Lyric's crystals in an old robot factory, where they find 343 Dinklebot, who tells Sonic that he needs to go back in time to imprison Lyric in that tomb. Apparently he was the one who did it 1,000 years ago. Seriously, what the fuck is with all this time travel in Sonic? What is it about a blue hedgehog that these writers think lends itself so well to all this sci-fi bullshit? And then Shadow shows up.
Saving the world? You? Don't make me laugh. You're weak. And you know what makes you weak? Your loyalty to your pathetic friends. You're not going through that portal. I'm gonna show you just how weak you are.
Well, that was completely pointless. Then Sonic and Tails go back in time, they imprison Lyric, and they somehow go back to the present. At this point, all semblance of a coherent plot structure is thrown out the window, and it just becomes play level and get Crystal. Which would be totally fine, mind you. If the gameplay didn't suck dick! Sonic Boom is a mess of ideas. They wanted it to be a runner, a platformer, a brawler, a collectathon, a fucking RPG. They wanted this big, epic Sonic experience, but they couldn't work on any of those systems enough to make them interesting or worthwhile. And the game looks like ass. Seriously, sometimes it looks like a fucking PS2 game.
There's no time like the present.
Wait, there are presents?
No.
To start with, there's the Mach Speed sections. These are where you're constantly running and can only jump and dodge in certain areas. These have been a staple of Sonic games for quite a while now. They restrict gameplay while showing off Sonic's speed and finesse. But it's kinda hard to show that stuff off when your game runs like a fucking slideshow!
What?
Faster, Knuckles, faster!
I might as well be flipping through my Sonic Jr. novel. That has better gameplay than this. With all this, it's almost like you're not even playing a game. I know that's a common complaint in 3D Sonic games, but I think it's applicable here. And you know what? You're not playing a game. The game is playing you. Then there's the platforming and combat, and man, this is where the game really falls apart. So Big Red Button stated that they wanted each character to have specialty abilities that speak to who they are and how they interact with the world. When you have a roster of playable characters, you want to define them through their gameplay. You want them to feel totally unique from each other, and they actually managed this, albeit in a pretty standard way. Sonic is the fast, zippy dude, the DPS if you will, Tails is the ranged attack, Knuckles is the tank, and Amy is, the rogue? I'm not really sure with Amy. She's the chick with the big powerful hammer, but she's also like a freaking gymnast now. She can like triple jump and balance on beams and stuff. She's half ready to kick a dinosaur out a window.
My favorite direction. We're going up!
No, Amy. According to the internet, your favorite direction is going down. The character differentiation is fine and whatever, I guess. But the problem comes from the fact that the gameplay is so boring. The formula for each level is just platform, fight some dudes, platform, fight some more dudes, rinse, and goddamn repeat. And the enemies, though varied, all do the same things. It's just robots who hit you and robots who shoot you. None of them seem all the more powerful or intimidating than others, and none of them are especially suited to certain characters or anything like that. Everybody fights on an even playing field, and it's way too easy. Oh shit, a new bad guy! This is gonna be tough!
Time for some fun!
Tired of the sound of sparking robots.
And if you ever get overwhelmed, you can literally just grapple enemies with your laser whip, you get laser whips by the way, and throw them away. Just throw them the fuck out of the arena so you don't have to deal with them. I did that so many times that it actually stopped being funny. They say that they want to encourage cooperation in this game, but nothing in the game lends itself to being cooperated. There are sections that are divided so that only certain characters are allowed to go certain ways because of the platforming, but it's still each character progressing independently. It's not use one character to unlock A, then the next character unlocks B, and then they both proceed to C. They built paths for 2 players, but didn't want them to be codependent, so they just made each side completable by yourself in single player. I guess except for the lame you need 2 characters to pull the thing puzzles. Except even sometimes that doesn't work. At one point in the game, I found one of those pull thingies that I had to do in order to progress. But whenever I tried pulling it, for whatever reason, the AI wouldn't want to help me. They would just stand there like a fucking idiot while I was pulling this thing by myself. So in order to fix this, I had to hook up a fucking Wiimote as a second controller and then finagle it so I could cast the beam and pull both at the same time. There is nothing lonelier than having to play two-player Sonic Boom by yourself. Thanks, game. You did that to me. And then there's the hub worlds. I guess someone really wanted to make a Banjo-Kazooie style collectathon at Big Red Button, but didn't know the first thing about making these worlds interesting. The first place is a dry desert canyon. You can run around, go to different levels, and take some boring side quests to give you power glyphs to help you out in combat. But all these quests are progress sensitive, so you can only do them after you've done certain levels.
Hello? Can you come back later and see me? I think I need to be alone right now.
But what's a collectathon without collectibles? And you've got plenty of collectibles here. There's robot parts that you use to upgrade your skills, crowns that you use to unlock those upgrades to be purchased, and shinies that you find using the Wii U Gamepad Detective mode and trade in for more crowns. Why not just use rings to buy this shit? Seriously, there's rings fucking everywhere, why not? But they're never used for anything more than regaining health. Oh, and you can only have a total of 100 rings at any time. 100! That is unless you want to connect your 3DS to the Wii U to enable purchasing the ring upgrade. The only useful upgrade in the entire list, mind you, and it requires a fucking 3DS to unlock! So the second hub world had a lot more promise. Sonic and friends go to some island that's apparently ruled by a fascist mouse, and they find this neat little town. Huh, a town to explore. That could be really cool. Except for one problem. It's a goddamn ghost town! There's no people in the streets, no buildings to go into, nothing to see, and hardly anything to do. Might as well replace these houses with more canyons, cause this place is barren as fuck. Yeah, there's some stuff to climb on, things to collect, and a couple side quests, but it's all the same shit as before. Nonsensical busy work.
People love races. Do you want to try the Great Mystery Race? Let's see if you can beat my time. You won!
And the worst transgression of all, the pièce de résistance of shit. There is no real penalty in this game for dying. You lose a teeny bit of robot parts for upgrading, but that's it. When you lose all your rings, you black out and then immediately go back to exactly what you were doing. If you were fighting 10 robots and you killed 5 and died, those 5 would still be gone when you come back. And no penalty for dying means that there's not a single ounce of tension in any moment of the entire game. Not during fights, not during platforming, not during boss battles, not even during the final boss battle. There is never any kind of stress or worry about progress or difficulty or anything. And you know what that does? That makes everything in this game stand out as pure, unfiltered, unbridled annoyance. Everything in this game is annoyance. People won't stop talking.
Looks like Metal took out the entrance to the village. Everyone, to the village entrance!
Look, ramps!
We can use these as ramps!
I knew it wasn't gonna be easy.
We can never just get the prize. Ugh, always a fight.
I guess a little fight before we get the crystal isn't so bad.
Okay, who's first?
Swing and a miss!
I know I'm not the intended audience for this game. It's meant for kids who like the Cartoon Network show, I get it. But kids deserve better than games like this. Even if you look past a lot of the game's problems, then it's just a slog of ridiculously easy gameplay. There's no challenge, there's no fun. The game's a largely broken piece of shit that you can beat in a day if you really hate yourself. Needless to say, I really don't recommend it. But I started this video by saying that Sonic Boom isn't as bad as people say it is, so that means there's gotta be stuff I like, right? No, that's not what that means, but there is stuff I like in this game. Although I think the attempted ruggedness of these characters is hilarious, I do actually like the art style of this game. It's kind of Ratchet and Clank meets Mickey Mouse with enough classic Sonic thrown in while still making it unique.
Oh, help! I got you.
I really like Eggman's design. It's a cool cross between adventure-era Eggman and old-school Robotnik that fits how silly his Sonic Boom persona is. I also don't see anything inherently wrong about a lot of the stuff they tried. Making a hub-world collectathon platforming / combat-focused Sonic game that still incorporates speed sounds great on paper. That's a long headline, but still it sounds nice. It's just the reality of it that's hard to achieve. What the game ended up with was something way too segmented with all its different aspects. That's basically playing gameplay roulette. This isn't what I mean when I say the game's not as bad as people think, though. What I mean is that, despite a patch that supposedly fixes a lot of the game-breaking glitches and bugs, you're still left with a fundamentally boring game. But really, that's just it. It's mostly just boring. It's not as broken as a Sonic 06, it's not as dry and repetitive as a Shadow the Hedgehog. When it comes down to it, Sonic Boom Rise of Lyric is just a boring, unfun game with flawed gameplay systems and a lot of leftover bugs. I can't even complain about difficulty spikes because everything was so goddamn easy. It's not worth playing, but it's not nearly as broken as some other Sonic games out there. At least, not anymore. But the thing is, I think I would rather play a game like Sonic 06 or Shadow the Hedgehog instead of something like Sonic Boom. Call me crazy, but those games, while horrendous, at least offer something interesting and, in a morbid sense, fun, maybe, possibly. Maybe I'm just looking back with rose-colored glasses, but if I were to play one of those games again with a few friends to laugh at how bad it is, I would probably not pick Sonic Boom. It's so firmly planted in that mediocre to bad range, while those other games are cemented into bad. The levels are monotonous, the gameplay is by the numbers, and the story isn't interesting or funny, at least not to a cynical guy in his 20s like me. However, I wouldn't say it's bad enough to deserve a rating like this. Oh, and then Shadow shows up at the end.
Looks like you and your friends got the job done. Not bad. All hail Shadow, heroes rise again.
In commemoration of the 10th anniversary of a certain beloved Sonic game, for all of November I'll be covering some of the worst from Sonic the Hedgehog thanks to my awesome supporters on Patreon. If you'd like to see other cool stuff like this or simply support the show, go to patreon.com/Yomarz.